Look how small this is. The Canon PowerShot SD1400 IS. This is actually my wife's. I found it while I was cleaning out the crawl space. I was kind of blown away at how small this thing is. And if you know me or if you've watched some of these videos, I love compact cameras, point and shoots. But I think bigger than all of that, I'm here to challenge myself with the tool that's in front of me and see what I can create with that. So over the last few months, winter, spring now, I've been taking it around with me pretty much everywhere, trying to make great images. And so some of the qualities they have on there are pretty standard. You have your macro feature, and I have three favorite effects that I've been using lately. The foliage one, it kind of makes your colors pop a bit, so it's a little bit more vibrant. Black and white effect, and what else do they have? And then a positive film effect. So similar to the Ricoh GR2 or Fuji has their recipes. I'm just a big fan of, lately, of shooting more JPEGs, less editing. I'll do some tweaking when I export them, but for the most part, what I'm trying to do is create images with less. So let's go through some of the images right now that I've created with the Canon PowerShot SD1400 IS. Let's go. Alright, so I had a second here to actually test out the zoom capabilities of the Canon PowerShot. Not a big fan of zooms in general, but it is nice to see what focal length will look good with your photography. You just don't know till you try it. And since a lot of my street, I like to experiment with the 90mm, like a tighter focal length, the 50mm roughly. It was a nice option to have, but if you think back to that era, that time, roughly the 2010s, all these companies were looking for as many features as possible to justify the price. It's not something that I need on my cameras. I'd rather just have a fixed lens, but when you're experimenting, it's kind of fun. All right, so there's your sample images and my experience with the Canon PowerShot. I'm not surprised with the image quality, you know, 14 megapixels, and these are JPEGs. Like I said earlier in the intro, this is a practice of pushing my limits with the equipment in front of me. So some of the cons really quick. I think it's too small. Is that crazy? It's actually not too small, but the ergonomics are not there. Can you see that? That's, I think, my only con to this for a 2010 camera now. Now, there's tons of cons if you're comparing it to a 2023 camera, but I'm talking about everyday use. In 2010, this was probably amazing. My experience shooting street with it, I will say, was okay. I had to set up more, almost like shooting film, because of how long each image took. The busy signal would pop up. I couldn't just rack off about 6 or 7 shots in like 2-3 seconds like the cameras nowadays. But I understood that, so it was an in-between shooting film and shooting digital. This was a nice little in-between, and I think because I knew all those things, taking images and making images with something like this really tells you to slow down. You know that you're not gonna get great images unless you really set up your composition and decide, is this something I want to shoot? This is actually the end of DigiCams as being your main image maker and the beginning of cell phones becoming the all-in-one go-to camera. So imagine it's 2010, this is 14 megs, and your iPhone or whatever you're using is probably like 4 megs or something. So like this would be a pretty good option, and it's tiny. Yeah, so that's my little review. Let me know your thoughts on this camera and cameras like it from that era. Anybody have experience with any of the PowerShot Canon cameras? They were pretty popular at that time. I mean, I think everybody had one at one point. Anyways, with that said, thank you for watching. I appreciate it. It's always great to get a new perspective, and I love point and shoots. Let me know, recommend some point and shoots that I should try out from this era. It could be a DigiCam, it could be film, doesn't really matter, but this is more about just expressing and experimenting with new old gear. I'm all about it. So until the next video, stay creative and believe in yourself. Peace.